All right, welcome to another episode of the Fair Chase podcast. Got Joe here today. How are you, Joe?
Hi, I'm good. How about you?
Good, good. It's been very hot here, but it rained. Is it raining by you today?
It did this morning, and we needed it bad. It's been in the 90s and windy the last few days, so it's dried everything out. So we need it bad. The
Yeah,
old garden was looking pretty sad for a second.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Summer. Well, I don't really want to beat around the bush, so to speak. Let's just talk about it. I want to talk your upcoming grizzly hunt. We've got under 2 months, about 2 months.
Yeah, just under 2 months. We leave on August 19th. So, yeah, today's what, 25th, 26th. So,
Yeah.
under 2 months, 7 weeks, something like that. So, it is game time. Starting to get it. I mean, we've been excited since we found out that this was happening, but now it's starting to set in a little bit more. And every sequential day from here until when we leave is going to be a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then it'll hit really hard once we get on that plane.
Yeah. It's so fun because I'm not going on this one, but when we do these film projects, I feel like I'm pretty much almost as excited as if I were there, just because, like you said, we've talked about this forever. And you plan it for so long, and there's a lot that goes into it. So I'm just excited to see what happens. Don't
Yeah,
screw it up.
about it. Uh, I do feel a little bit of pressure in this one that I usually don't. Um, but it's a unique one for a lot of ways. I mean, we've got a really killer opportunity with WTA. Obviously, we work with them a lot. But I'm returning back to where I did my doll sheep hunt with that same outfit in that same area. So it's the first time that I've returned back to a place, really, other than like my typical Montana,
Yeah.
Wyoming spots that we do on our own. But I've been to a bunch of different spots in Alaska, but this is the first time I'm returning back, and this area is my of all the places that I've hunted, my favorite place with
Yeah.
no close second. It's just phenomenal country. The amount of game that's there is crazy. The people are awesome. Everything about it's just really, really cool. So, and then Grizzly obviously has been ever since I got into bear hunting heavily every single year. Grizzly's been at like the very, very top of my bucket list. So, yeah, no pressure.
So why are you were telling me you're more nervous about this than you were we did a sheep film last year or a goat film last year, like that, more than that.
Just because I want it so bad,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Has nothing to do with like a filming pressure or sponsor pressure or anything like that. I just personally want a grizzly bear so bad. Um, I mean, we've got some kind of cool ideas of what I mean personally we're going to be doing. Hopefully with this hide, and um, I'm getting married next year, so my wedding band's going to be made out of grizzly bone. Hopefully, if
Mm.
we kill one. So there's a little bit of outside pressure riding on this one that has nothing to do with projects or sponsors, things like that. So we gotta kill one.
Gotta kill. I didn't know that. I like the wedding band idea. That's not bad.
Yeah. So we're gonna take the femur and use that. So
That's sick.
that's the plan.
Just why don't you, for you and I have talked about it so much, so it's probably easy for me to take for granted all the things that are going on and like what the hunt is, what it looks like. Because you can hunt a grizzly in a ton of different ways, ton of different places. Like, give me an overview, give us an overview of like what the place is, what you'll be doing, you know, that kind of thing.
It's interesting because to your point, yeah, there's a bunch of different ways that you can hunt a grizzly. I mean, spot and stalk is pretty common. You can hunt them when they're targeting fish. You can hunt them. That's more in the fall and the summer months. But in the spring, you're hunting them right out of the den up high, kind of living in that first burned off area of snow. You can hunt them over bait. We're kind of doing a little bit of all of that where we're hunting. So we're going to be in kind of west central Alaska, I guess is the best way to describe it. Pretty close to Denali. Um, and it's a really unique area where it's high country, but we're right kind of on that edge of where it blows out into that western tundra, and kind of more of that aldery brush, oak brush, river country. So in that unit, we're able to bait for grizzlies. You can actually shoot 2 in that unit now, and you can hunt the same day you fly. So they've kind of taken a lot of the red tape off of this unit, and they want some bears killed out there. But what makes it unique is it does have some fish. The Kuskokwim River floats through there, and there's a bunch of feeder creeks that come off of that. So it does get somewhat of the salmon run. It's not like hunting on the peninsula where they're fish bears, like they're just targeting fish that time of year. Um, these bears are pretty unique where they're moose killers, they're sheep killers, they're getting on the blueberries up in the high country, but there's also this element of fish in there too. So we're going in there kind of with a fluid game plan of, if they're up high, we're going to go get them up high. If they're down in moose country chasing calves around, we're going to target them there. We're going to do some calling. We're going to do some baiting. We're going to do some glassing. We're going to look over some country that we can see down big stretches of rivers and kind of look into the pools off the sides and big eddies where salmon might be getting trapped, and bears are going to be targeting them there. So it's a very kind of just roll with the punches grizzly hunt, which is my favorite. So we can get into a little bit of anything and everything. So
OnX is the title sponsor of our podcast here at the Fair Chase, and it's a must-have app for all of us who love to explore the outdoors. Whether you're hunting or hiking or fly fishing, OnX gives you detailed, accurate maps right at your fingertips. With property boundaries, topographical features, and trail data, you'll always know where you are and where you're headed. You'll also likely be able to figure out where that big buck is headed to. Plus, their offline maps mean you're covered even in the most remote locations. OnX is the ultimate tool for outdoor navigation, making every adventure safer and more enjoyable. Download OnX today and explore with confidence.
The other part that makes it unique is we are barely above the 62nd parallel. And aside from that little inlet that comes up and around Anchorage, the 62nd parallel is the differentiating factor between, is it a brown bear or is it a grizzly bear? Is it a coastal bear or an interior bear? So by definition, we will be hunting interior grizzlies, which aren't known to be as big as those coastal bears that just gorge on fish all summer and fall.
Right.
So consequently, the scoring parameters are a little bit smaller for grizzly as opposed to a coastal bear. But we'll be hunting bears that do have some fish in their diet, so they could be very big.
So you're on the edge, and likely there's a chance of bigger interior bears where you are because of
correct. Fish. Yeah, exactly. And our guide was out there this spring and saw an absolute hammer, like probably in that 9.5 foot range for an interior bear that's massive. So kind of subconsciously we're all hoping, praying that we're going to be targeting that one. But realistically, any bear is going to be just absolutely kick-ass. I just really want one so bad. There's no other way to describe it. Like I want one more than I can describe with words. I want to have a grizzly pelt in my house. I want to have a skull. I just love bear hunting, and to have one would be so cool. Just the opportunity to hunt them would be so cool. So I spent a lot of time in a multitude of different grizzly country between like Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, obviously, British Columbia, Alaska, and this is the first time that I've actually had the opportunity to kill one. So
yeah. I mean, it's just a wild. It's like, we say it a lot, but they're actually like a monster. You see one, and it's not a black bear. It's very different. It's a different thing, and it's like a real life monster out in the woods.
Yeah, there's no other parallel to them in North America.
No.
And I don't think that there's really across the world anything that's like them, right? I mean,
right.
there's other monstrous predators out there, but there's something very iconic and different when you see and are around a grizzly bear.
Yeah. And the terror, right? You see one, and it's like, they'll eat roots and bugs and stuff, but they'll eat you too. Like that's it's not light. It's not a small thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and they have the interior bears certainly have a different temperament than what the ones do that are solely living off of fish. Like you see the videos of guys that are 10 yards away from them just absolutely drunk on salmon. These are not these bears. These are going to be, I mean, they deal with real winters in this area. So that when you get into those fall months, they're certainly looking to put on calories in whatever way that they can. I mean, they're weeks away from their hyperphagia phase. So anything and everything that has a caloric index to it, they'll put in their guts. So
yeah, I mean, it's like polar bears. Like polar bears are so terrifying because they'll try to kill you because their only food source is meat. And so when you're in an interior bear with an interior bear who doesn't have the fish, they're definitely more apt to go after you because they're used to going after moose calves and deer fawns and everything else, other black bears and stuff like that.
yeah, I talked with the guide quite a bit. I'm probably pestering him more than what I should, but that's okay. He's used to it by now. I've hunted with him before. And on their spring hunt, I think they said they saw 17 grizzlies and 3 black bears. And they're like, yeah, we don't really know what's going on with the black bear numbers being so low. And we kind of both chalked it up to pretty sure the grizzlies are eating them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, one of the bears that they killed this spring was up in the high country targeting sheep. So, yeah, great. Kind of wild. It's just a different animal, different experience. And like I said, I've hunted in and around them so much, but never like targeted them. So I'm really excited to just spend time targeting them, learning about them. I mean, I've done a ton of research like I always do before these trips and talked to biologists and stuff like that. And kind of what I've learned about this demographic of bears that they're extremely aggressive. This is kind of that pocket similar to that of like the North Slope and the like over by Kotzebue where these bears are planning on starving for a little bit. So they're very aggressive in that like end of July to September time frame. So it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that will be interesting. What day do you leave again? You're August 20 or August 19?
August 19. Mm-hmm.
How many travel days are you walking in? Are you flying in? What does access look like?
We're flying into Anchorage on the 19th, and we get in there at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'll have kind of that day to go into town, buy the typical snacks, isobutane, odds and ends things. We have all of our tags and everything already, and then that following morning we'll fly out of Merrill Field and land on an airstrip in the area that we're going to be hunting. And then from there, we'll be going about, I think it was about 12 miles to the northwest, probably on like those 6-wheel quads.
Yeah, great.
To get into that general area. And Spencer actually built us a little dry cabin out there that we're going to be using as a base camp. And then from there, it's just kind of whatever we got to do, wherever we got to go to get on them. So we'll have the same gear that we had for a sheep hunt. We have kind of a base camp where we're going to have all of our extra food and stuff stored, but we're going to be spiking out chasing these bears. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be sweet. And it's you have 2 tags?
We'll have tags for grizzly, black bear, caribou. Wolverine season will not be open. So those are kind of the 3 things that we'll be ready for. But obviously the primary is going to be grizzly, and if we're lucky enough to kill one early, he has the ability to write more tags out there.
Right.
So we might go after a second grizzly. We'll see.
This episode is brought to you by 2O Gear, innovators in technical hunting clothing. 2O is a newer company. It's based right here in Michigan, and whether you're hunting elk in the mountains or chasing antelope in the plains or traipsing through swamps after that ruddy buck, 2O has you covered with premium jackets and pants, merino wool layers, everything you could possibly need to stay comfortable in the woods. Their products are engineered for functionality and durability, ensuring you stay protected in any conditions. Plus, their camo is really effective. We're big fans. So don't take our word for it, though. Go to 20gear.com and check it out. You get your
I
bow
don't want.
and your gun.
Yeah. We Lex is pretty nervous and rightfully so about me taking a bow. But just recently she's kind of green-lit it and talked to the outfitter about it, and he's like, "Yeah, take your bow. There might be some situations where it makes sense." We're not gonna pass any opportunities up that are marginal with a bow. If we can kill one with a gun, I'm gonna consider myself lucky and blessed and just get it. So,
Yeah.
but
People get
I,
tacked a lot with their bow. I don't know that I've read much of like somebody with bow hunting and getting chewed on.
I don't think it's really weapon dependent. It's just situational. If you make a bad shot and he makes it into the alders, then you're going in the alders with him. It's more just how well you shoot him. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's what you.
it's all situational. So, um, for the rifle side things, we're going to be suppressed. So hopefully, if a marginal shot does happen, he's not quite sure where it came from, and
Yeah.
our follow ups can be good. But Jordan, the camera guy, will have a 10 mil. I think Spencer carries a 375 or maybe a lot. I'm not sure exactly what he's carrying, but he'll have some sort of a big gun, and then I'll have my rifle, obviously, and then a handgun. So
300 PRC.
yeah, same gun as always. So I know that caliber all too well. I'm very familiar with that bullet. We'll have a 300 PRC Cadex. It's really the same setup I use for everything. The Barnes 208 LRX is solid copper bullet, so it's a really good performer at 15 feet all the way to like 600 yards. So, um, I thought about changing and doing like a 338 Lapua or like a Weatherby caliber or something like that, but I just know that 300 PRC and that 208 like the back of my hand. So it's plenty of bullet, and I'm very comfortable with it. So it seemed like a silly thing to change. So
Yeah. Once you get your caliber kind of set, like I've always just like 300 Win Mag. I'll just anytime I get it's just my go-to. It's like I know what it does. I know it.
yep.
Just and like I've been tempted to the PRCs and the different things that are coming out, but it's like I always just find myself going right back to just the simple.
The PRC and the Win Mag are very comparable ballistically. You can just get a little bit more bullet weight and a little bit better BC out of a 300 PRC, but as far as performance, they're almost identical
Yeah.
when it comes to like terminal performance. So
And it'll shoot basically any large game in North America that I can think of. If you're shooting a grizzly with it, and I shot a moose with mine, frontal shot with a moose, like I don't know what else, what else you're gonna run into and have issues.
realistically, if it starts with a 3, you're pretty covered in
Yeah,
North America. So
yeah. What's cool about bears, and why I always like to hunt them, and we talk about this a lot, is that they're just like an interesting type of animal. And black bears are that way. We'll go black bear hunting, and it's fun to just watch them because they just do random stuff that, like, a deer you'll see take a trail, feed, eat, sleep, lay down or whatever, head back up the trail. Bears can walk over here, flip a log over, dig around for a while. It's their back on a tree. Like they just do more fun stuff. So it's going to be kind of cool just to see a grizzly be a grizzly out like in the middle of nowhere.
what's interesting, and I'm sure there's gonna be people that disagree with this, but I've kind of noticed with all the different species that I've hunted, as like ungulates, deer, elk, sheep, antelope, mule deer, whatever, they don't have much of a personality. Like
Right.
a deer is kind of a deer, and I mean, there's maybe a couple small examples of where that's not true, but all bears have personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Like they all behave a little bit differently. They kind of do their own thing, and a lot of that's kind of determined by what they grew up chasing when they were a cub. So if mom was a moose killer when she had those cubs, they're going to learn to target moose when that's like the food source that's available. Ones that grew up really hammering the berry patches and searching for those blueberries and elderberries and stuff like that, that's what they're going to be going for.
Yeah.
Same is true of like the Yellowstone bears that you and I have just seen this month. Like the big majority of them, their 80% of their caloric intake is from moths because that's what they grew up learning
Yeah.
to target. When that moth is in town, they just eat hundreds of thousands of them in a week. So
Yeah.
they learn something. They become like a specialist in that in a way. If they grew up on the coast, they're fish specialists. If they grow up on the North Slope, they're killing caribou and eating blueberries. So
Yeah. I mean, I think you know, I can hear some whitetail guy being like, "No, I got a buck, and he's the bully of the neighborhood." And it's like there are minor differences between deer, but when it's something like, and I think it actually has to do with omnivore predator versus like an herbivore, where like there's like a culture, like each, you know, I was watching this wolf pack in Yellowstone. It was the Wapiti pack, and they do things entirely different than the pack south, you know, or I went and did a whale watch a couple years ago and watched orcas, and there are pods of orcas that will put fish on their heads, or they'll target a certain thing, and it's very group dependent. It's something that they learn from their parents, and I think part of it is to be a predator or even an omnivore predator like a bear. It's like you have to have a different type of thought to be, you know, to survive, because you know, a predator is your prey, your instincts, you run away, you can find your food, it's grass, whatever. But bears have to have a little bit more creativity, and they have to. It's like more of a planning brain. I feel like it's more developed, almost seeming, than when you see like a deer or an elk.
I think the other big portion of that too is how long the young stay with their mother. Like you look at deer and elk, like they're born in May or June, but by the time October, November rolls around, they're still with them, but they're largely independent as a yearling at that point. Like they can be away from mom in November. But look at bear cubs, they're with mom until 2.5 years old. You look at whales, way longer even. Um, and they're just learning so much more in that time frame, and there's so much more input of like that personality and where they are geographically in that world and what they're feeding on and how they're surviving, that those the young ones are learning for a longer period of time.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, it's just there's a difference in predators and prey, and you know, I think it is a good point. Maybe it is how long they spend with their parents and can take, you know, but it's what adds to kind of the fun, and why I've always really enjoyed looking for bears, because it just feels like it's a totally different type of hunt than deer hunting.
It is. Yeah, it's definitely the hunt that I look forward to the most every year. We do spring bear every year. We got some different plans for we have this is kind of the year of the bears. We've got lots of bear tags this year. I've still got a fall tag for Montana. We've got Michigan tags. We've got this Alaska tag. We got some plans for next spring. So it's quickly become my favorite animal to hunt. I still love everything else, like elk and sheep obviously have a very dear spot in my heart, and even whitetails at home. But if I had to pick one animal to hunt for the rest of my life, it would undoubtedly be bears.
Yeah, yeah, we do have a lot of bear tags. I love to eat them too. They're delicious,
Yeah,
underrated.
we're almost out of bear, so we'll hopefully be bringing some meat back from Alaska and having some tags filled here because we go through it quick. I'm hoping that maybe I can find a grizzly that's just eating blueberries because I would love to keep some grizzly meat. But if they're hard on the fish, they're undoubtedly like pretty inedible.
What's
So
is grizzly just similar to black bear?
they are what they eat. Yeah, if you find an awesome interior bear that's just been gorging on the blueberries, they're going to be probably pretty awesome to eat. But if you have one that's eating dead caribou in the spring and gorging on fish in the fall, it's not going to be very good to eat. So
Oh. You want the meat to
yeah,
have a deep bluish hue.
right. I'm regardless, I'm gonna try it just because I want to say I've eaten grizzly bear, but I hope it's good, and I can bring
Yeah.
a bunch of grizzly meat home because I think that's just cool. And I like to eat what I kill when it's
Yeah.
a possibility. So
Um, you mentioned baiting. Beaver? Is that
um I'm not 100% sure what. So we've been talking quite a bit about what we're going to be using for bait. A lot of it, like it's volume based, right? So it's not like a black bear where you can put a 55-gallon drum out and that'll last a few days. Like once they come to the bait, they're going to take everything. So it's definitely being supplemented with dog food. But there's going to be some like fish carcass and stuff from the summer fishing months. They have some stuff stored up, not meat. Obviously, I don't think that's legal, but caribou carcass, like bones and shit like that. And then anise oil is a really good attractant. It's just it's kind of like it takes the place of that beaver carcass because obviously beaver carcasses aren't always the easiest to get a hold of.
Yeah.
But that oil that they have in their gland is an amazing attractant for grizzlies and black bears. But I know we're going to be using anise oil. So
Is it just because they're high fat? Is because I've heard this. I feel like we've talked about this before. Like beavers are the thing. Is that it?
I don't think it has anything to do with fat. I think that just that castor oil or
Mm,
that gland oil that they have is just so pungent and they can smell it and they just associate it with a food source. So,
interesting.
but yeah, I mean, it's so hard to say what we're going to be getting into, and the weather is so like if we have fish around, then we're going to be targeting the fish. If the blueberry crop is awesome, I'm sure they're going to be on that. And if neither are good, then they're targeting moose, and we'll be calling them and stalking them in moose country and glassing for them there. So we just have to kind of be ready for whatever it throws at us. And right now, kind of the big fear with that area is there's so many fires in Alaska right now, and it's been so dry, and the winter was so weak this year that they relocated the Iditarod, which they haven't done in 50 years. So we're coming into a dry season on Alaska standards. So the fire risk is certainly a problem, and I'm not sure how that's going to affect the blueberry crop. So
Right.
my guess is that we're going to be hunting more of a predation style bear than we are us foraging on berries.
Which is more like, is it, how would that change your approach other than baiting for them?
It's going to look like getting on a glassing knob where we can see more of that low country where the moose are going to be living. I think they're going to be targeting more of the moose and the fish than they are up in the hillsides getting onto the berry and the sheep country. So, but we got 7 weeks. Maybe they get a bunch of rain, and this is all speculative, right? So we're
Right.
just kind of going with the angle of we're going to do whatever we got to do and be physically prepared and prepared gear wise to do whatever it takes. So
What are you doing to train?
whole lot of hiking, whole lot of lifting, whole lot of cutting sugar out of diet, just kind of getting it's I mean, we're always kind of ready for this stuff. I try really hard to never be out of shape. And thankfully we do enough hunts where that stays easy. I think that's kind of been the key to my success for a lot of it is just never getting out of shape. But these last couple of months we're definitely hitting it harder.
Yeah, that's my move. It's like if you're always ready to go on a sheep hunt, then life is easier than trying to get into sheep shape or goat shape or bear shape or whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah. If you keep a good baseline, it's easy
Yeah,
to turn it up than starting from zero every year. Yeah. Don't get fat in the winter.
that's right. Don't put on that winter fat. Jordan, get in shape, man. He'll be listening to this.
Jordan's fine. I trust him.
He'll be good.
So I gave him a lot of shit last year, getting ready for that goat hunt, and then he just kind of and there's personality types that can just do this. They just show up and they perform. And
Yeah,
I'm not one of them. I'm one that's got to kind of stay in it. But I was a little bit easier on him this year because I
he
was
did it
worried
last
about him
year.
last year. I was worried about him last year, and he showed up and he just killed it. So yeah, he'll be fine. He's got it.
And he's been messaging me about it, his training. So it's good to see. I mean, a lot goes into it. What's the temperature going to be like? What are you kind of expecting for weather? It could be anything. It's Alaska.
No expectations. Yeah, I mean, when we were sheep hunting, it was like 20s at night, 50s during the day, and wet and windy. But it could be anything. I mean, it's August, right? It could be snow. It could be 80.
Yeah. No, I
So
think of my last trip, maybe not my last, 2 trips ago to Alaska it snowed in mid August, it pretty much snowed on and off the whole time I was there. Now I was up pretty far north, but still, I mean, It's going to be daylight, like a long day when you're there still.
Um, I think the sunlight hours are like 5 a.m. to like 11 o'clock at night. So it's not like where we were caribou hunting where it's like 24/7. We will have some darkness, but there is no shooting time in Alaska. So if we have a clear night and we can film, we'll hunt. Um, yeah, I plan on sleeping very, very little on this trip. Especially knowing that we have baits out. And if we can get in a spot where like we have a bait on a riverlet backdrop, not necessarily from a hunting perspective, but more of a just like intel perspective,
Hmm.
I'm going to be getting up a lot in the middle of the night to just kind of go glass around and listen and hopefully be able to see a bait in those twilight hours. So not a whole lot of sleeping. But I mean, it's very similar to like if we go that low country tactic, it's going to be very similar to that of a moose hunt where you don't want to go tracking up
Right.
the country that you're hunting. You want to get on a glassing knob and kind of stay there, um, which is hard for me because I'm a mover.
Mhm.
But um, just kind of knowing if that is the type of hunt that we're gonna do, that's the tactic. If they're up in the high country, then by all means get on the ridges and move, go find them. But if they are in the low country, you do have to kind of commit to a glassing knob or a series of glassing knobs and not stink up the country that you're hunting in.
Easier said than done.
It is, yeah, especially when you have a personality type similar to the two of us, where it's like that fear of like, oh, I'm missing something over this next ridge, and if I just cut through this country and go look there, it'll be nice because I've looked at, I know the area and I've looked at it enough on Onyx. I've gone into 3D view and looked at what we can see from this knob that we're planning on being on, and we can see two lakes, um, a big portion of riverbank, and a whole bunch of flat country. And then if we turn around and look up back, we can see the high country too. So there's plenty to look at, and that helps a personality type like my own. Where if I have a lot to look at, I'm not as like amped up to just go walking around looking for something.
Yeah.
So it's when you put me in a tunnel where I get all freaked out and have to go move. So
That's right. I've seen the deer hunting. I even when I was out moose hunting, like I finally convinced my guide to let me go down where I shouldn't have been. I think twice, and obviously didn't turn up anything. It didn't work out, and it probably didn't help me in the long run. But like you said, it's like you see it from up above for 10 hours a day or whatever, and you're like, I just want to go in there and see what's going on and mix it up a little bit.
yeah, and I've watched a lot of videos on brown bear and grizzly hunting, and that's like I'm trying to educate myself and get myself to the point where like don't give in to these temptations of being a wanderer because like all of them say the same thing. You gotta just you stay behind the glass, just wait for the situation to kind of unfold. And I'm just so geared to go make the situation unfold. Um,
Yeah.
but I know these guides. Spencer's a great guy, and obviously I hunted with John before, and they're both kind of like they're very blunt and direct, which I need. And they're like, "Hey, idiot, calm down. Like we got
Yeah.
10 days, 10 long days to do this. Like just let it happen. Slow your roll, homie." So
Yeah. How are you shooting your gun to get ready?
um I actually just picked up some targets. I'm gonna go do that this evening. I'm I'm not great at a lot of things, but like the two things that I think I am pretty damn good at is I'm pretty deadly behind a rifle, even at distance, and I'm damn good at walking. I like to move. The one thing that I've noticed that is kind of my Achilles heel in my shooting skill set is tripod work. So I'm really good prone. I'm for whatever reason pretty solid offhand. I'm good shooting off of like a log or a backpack, but my elevation on tripod shooting needs some work. So when I'm up on a tripod, finding that secondary anchor point, finding that like good solid position on the tail side, under the butt, my if I miss, it's going to be in a vertical orientation, not horizontal. I'm always kind of like moving up and down like this. So
Mm.
I'm spending these next 7 weeks doing a lot of tripod work. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I do think we're going to be hunting them in that lower country where a prone shot is not an option. So that's what I'm very comfortable with my dope chart. Very comfortable with my bullet. Like I said, my entire gear list is pretty much the same. I'm running a different optic, but it's a very familiar platform. Suppressor's the same, bullet's the same, everything's the same. I just need to do a little bit more work off of a tripod, which kind of sounds silly. Like a tripod should be some of your easiest shooting, but I just don't have as much experience with that as I do prone.
Well, and as far as shooting goes, you shoot more than most people I know with a rifle. Like you spend more time with your rifle than a solid amount of, hunters that I encounter. And you work in it every day. Like you are, right. That doesn't surprise me. And the walking side, I can attest to the fact because we'll go hiking and it's like one of your steps, I've got like two of mine to keep up with that long stride, you know?
Yeah, long legs help for sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
to your point,
And just
I'd spend a
go.
lot of time behind a rifle, but that that specific type of shooting is where I have done like most of my tripod shooting is for coyotes. So
Right.
it's not that I'm unfamiliar with it, but yeah, don't do a lot of shooting from a full standing position. So that is the majority of my work right now. So
No, that's
we'll be
great.
good.
No, no, yeah, you will be good. Of all people I know in this situation, yeah, you'll be great. Very excited for it to happen. We're 7 weeks away. And for everybody listening, we'll put out more content around this hunt, and obviously there'll be a film, and we'll tell you more about it. But I just want to take a week here to have you on, Joe, and just go through what we're doing and give you a sense of like this is what it looks like for before we go on a hunt. These are the things we're talking about, thinking about, like you've made very clear. When we do these, there's a lot of research. And to what you had mentioned earlier, one of my favorite parts of going to hunt a new animal is you spend a long time diving into that animal and a book just about bears or whatever to talking to biologists in the area. There's a lot that goes into it, and I feel like that's half the fun. And certainly you spent quite a bit of time so far doing that.
Yeah. And it's not that I'm like, I don't love elk hunting and deer hunting and things like that, but after you've done something for a while, you get a little bit complacent. Um, and what you're learning, you should always be learning no matter what you're doing. But anytime you hunt something new or hunt something that you hold in such a high regard, like this is my number one animal without a close second, you kind of get to step back into those shoes of what maybe 14-year-old Joe or James felt the first time they hunted whitetail. So to go after something new is just very like it's a refreshing, youthful feeling of I get to learn something completely new again. Yeah, I think
You
that's
go
why I
in
love
with as much as you,
stuff.
yeah, you go in like as much as you can know, but then when you get there, it's like it's a whole new game, and there's similarities between all hunts and everything else, sure, but like you're also starting from scratch, and it's really exciting.
That's the best part of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let you get going and get to shooting here. Everybody listening, you have questions about the film or how to prepare for a hunt. We get those fairly often. They like how to get ready for something. What does it look like to do X, Y, or Z? Just feel free to send us a message. One of us will answer either Joe's personal account, the Fair Chase, mine, whatever. We like to help. And that's kind of one of the reasons why we like to talk and we do these videos is just to share what we're seeing, what we're learning, all that goes into it. We love it and think it's a really important thing for more and more people to know about, especially this day and age where people are more comfortable behind screens than they are behind a rifle or in the backcountry. So anything we could do would encourage that.
And we'll start posting some videos here shortly as we're getting closer to like I always do the plastic folding table out in the garage that kind of shows all the gear that we're taking and how we're taking it and how we're traveling with meat and kind of all the logistics behind that. And not that this really isn't too unique in comparison to anything else that we do. So I think it's good information for people to look at they drew their first Colorado elk tag this year and they're flying out for it. And I get that question probably 70 times a year of, hey, how do you fly back with meat if you
Right.
kill something? And it's the same answer every single time. But it's ask all the questions that you want, but more than likely the answer is somewhere on our platform.
Yeah, and it has to do with a bunch of coolers that cheap coolers that end up in your garage after a few years. That,
Yep.
if you fly
It's
back with.
a trip to it's a trip to Dollar General and $50 a bag, 50 pounds per bag. It's the same
y-
formula, but it
That's
works
right. And
every
if you
time.
can get dry ice on top prior to leaving, get rid of
Yep.
it for the flight. That's the money. That's
Or don't.
luxury.
Sometimes they don't care. But
Yeah, that's true. Or just fly. I just was talking to Laura about this the other day when we went to Alaska with Jared, and we were like, all right, we got to get our, ISO YouTube, our gas, our cooking gas. And Jared's like, oh, I got mine. I flew with it. He had it checked in his luggage. So, you know, there's that too. You can get away with sometimes some things. Blow up the plane.
I don't recommend it, but yeah, I've made some oopsies on things that I've had in carry-ons before that somehow made it through. But
Yep.
yeah, hopefully
All right.
hopefully
Well,
it doesn't
thanks for
happen to
listening,
those.
everybody. If you have questions, like I said, let us know. We'll come out with content. Really like doing this. Appreciate you taking the time. And Joe, thanks for hopping on.